Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're zooming in on a very, very specific slice of the world. But the lessons here, I think, apply to just about anyone with a mortgage, a dream of moving, or just a Zillow addiction.
Which I think is most of us at this point.
Exactly. We're looking at the real estate markets of Chester County, Delaware County, and northern Delaware. And importantly, right now, February 2026.
It's a fascinating time to be looking, a fascinating place, because on the surface, things look one way, but the data, well, it tells a completely different story.
It's like a calm ocean surface with a massive current underneath.
That's a great way to put it.
So we've got a stack of research here from the SEER team, a husband and wife duo. And looking at their bio, they're not really your typical agents. They operate more like consultants.
High-stakes consultants, yeah.
We have their internal pricing data, their WB3 predictive system reports, and some really granular local market stuff. And here's the hook, right off the bat. We are looking at a massive contradiction in the market.
A contradiction is, it's the perfect word for it. It's a paradox.
Okay, so walk me through this. Technically, looking at the inventory charts, supply is incredibly low.
Right.
We're talking between 0.9 and 1.8 months of supply in places like Westchester. Now, textbook economics says anything under 3 months is a seller's market.
Economics 101, absolutely.
It should be bidding wars, waived inspections, all of that.
That's been the rule for the last 5 years. Low supply, high demand, prices go up. Simple.
But, and here is the wrinkle, price reduction rates are just skyrocketing. In some districts, like Chichester, nearly half the homes are cutting their prices.
44%, it's huge.
And we're seeing homes sit for over 200 days. So, help me understand, how can it be a seller's market if sellers are struggling so badly to sell?
It's what we're calling the silent correction. And honestly, calling it a seller's market right now is, well, it's dangerous. It's misleading.
Misleading how?
The label now only applies to the quantity of homes. You're right, there aren't many houses for sale. But it does not apply to the quality of the deal a seller can get.
So the buyers are out there, but they're basically on strike.
Essentially, yes. Buyers in 2026 are incredibly savvy. They have access to the same data we do. They are just refusing to pay 2024 fantasy prices in the 2026 economic reality.
So if a house is listed, but no one can afford it,
then it isn't really inventory, it's just scenery.
It's just scenery. That is a brutal way to put it.
Well, it's expensive scenery. And for the seller living inside that scenery, it's a very, very stressful place to be.
Okay, let's dig into the numbers on this silent correction, because the February 2026 data is pretty stark.
It is eye-watering in some spots. You mentioned Chichester. 44.1% of listings there have had a price cut.
Almost half.
Almost half the sellers in that district got the number wrong on day one. Garnet Valley is sitting at 40%. Rose Tree Media, it's spiked and is now settled around 35%.
So just a pause there. That means in most of these districts, anywhere from 1/3 to, 2/5 of sellers are having to slash their prices?
A massive margin of error. And I think there's this misconception among sellers that a price cut is just, part of the negotiation. Like, oh, I'll list high, and if I have to cut, I have to cut.
No harm, no foul.
Right. But the data shows that by the time you cut, the damage is already done.
This brings us to DOM days on market. I feel like this is a metric that normal people ignore, but agents are obsessed with it. Why is it so critical right now?
Because right now, we're seeing a tale of two markets. It's totally binary, almost no middle ground.
What do you mean?
If a home is priced correctly, and by correctly, I mean it matches the reality of February 2026, it sells in under 30 days. Boom, done.
And if it's overpriced?
It enters this limbo. It doesn't just sit for 45 days, no. In Avon Grove, overpriced homes are averaging 216 days on the market.
216 days.
In Downingtown, it's 155 days.
That's over 7 months. That's an eternity in real estate.
It is. And think about the psychology of that. If you're a buyer and you see a house has been sitting for 7 months, what's your first thought?
I assume something is wrong with it. Like, is the foundation cracking? Is there a ghost? Did someone die in there?
Exactly. You start inventing problems that don't even exist because you can't understand why no one else has bought it yet. The stigma of time just ruins the listing.
This leads us right to the financial consequences.
Yeah.
The source material has something called the testing the market timeline. And I think every seller does this. I'll just list it high for a few weeks.
See if I get a bite. I can always lower it.
Exactly. Why is that logic so flawed?
That is the single most expensive thought a seller can have. Let's walk through it. Days 1 through 14. That's your golden window.
Maximum eyeballs.
Maximum. Every serious buyer gets a push notification. Every local agent sees it. If you are overpriced during this window, you have wasted your one single best opportunity to create a bidding war. You've told all the most motivated buyers, this isn't for you.
Okay, so 2 weeks pass, nothing. Crickets. Then you hit day 30.
And you panic. So you drop the price. But a price reduction doesn't reset the clock. The buyers who dismissed you 3 weeks ago, they don't come back.
Oh, no.
Their psychology is if they drop it at once, they'll drop it again. They smell blood in the water.
That's painful. And by day 90?
By day 90, you are stale bread. Agents stop showing it. They assume the seller is difficult or the house has hidden issues. And that's when the lowball offers start trickling in. The sharks.
So by trying to get an extra 20 grand up front,
Yeah.
you end up selling for less than you might have in the first place.
Correct. And this is the part people really, really miss. It's not just about the final sale price. We have to talk about carrying costs.
Right, the cost of holding the asset.
The Sura team really emphasizes this math, and frankly, most sellers just pretend it doesn't exist.
I was looking at these numbers. Break down the cost of stubbornness for us.
Okay, so let's take a hypothetical but a really realistic one. A $900,000 home.
Not uncommon in Great Valley or parts of Westchester.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So you have the mortgage, right? Property taxes, insurance, utilities, maybe even staging costs.
The meter is just always running.
It is always running. And the data shows it costs somewhere between, get this, $6,450 and $9,300.
A month.
A month, just to keep that house operational and show ready.
Wow. Okay, so do the math for me. If you test the market and sit for 4 months.
4 months, which we've just seen happens, you're looking at a penalty of somewhere between $26,000 and $37,000.
That's just cash. Out of your pocket, gone.
Gone. And that is before you even factor in the price cut you inevitably have to make.
So you could be out, what, 80 grand?
Easily. You pay 30 grand in carrying costs, then you cut the price by 50 grand to get an offer. You've lost $80,000 compared to just pricing it right from the start.
That puts a huge price tag on ego. Time is literally money.
It is. And we have to remember the buyer's reality, too. It's not just that sellers are stubborn, it's that buyers are squeezed.
The interest rate threshold.
Exactly. We're definitely not at 3% anymore, but even small shifts seem to be freezing people up.
It's all just math.
It is purely mathematical. If a buyer qualifies for, say, a $3,000 monthly payment, look what happens. At 5.5% interest, they can buy a $528,000 home.
Okay.
But at 7.0%, that same buyer, same income, can only afford $450,000.
That's a $78,000 drop in purchasing power.
With no change in their life. The buyer pool hasn't just become picky, it has physically shrunk. Sellers are trying to price for buyers who literally do not exist at that price point anymore.
But, and this is where the research gets really interesting, it's not just the Fed, it's not just national rates, there are very specific local things happening.
This is the nuance the national headlines always miss. Real estate is hyper-local. An algorithm in Seattle has no idea what's happening on a specific street in Delaware County.
Okay, for example, Rose Tree Media. Good school district, high demand. But the report mentions a shadow over it.
Right. Crozer Health. It's a major employer in Delco. And there have been layoffs, and now serious calls for criminal investigations into their parent company.
That sounds intense.
Right.
How does that hit housing prices?
It creates localized job insecurity. If you work at Crozer, or your spouse does, are you really going to take on a massive new mortgage right now?
Probably not. You're going to wait.
Exactly. So the buyer pool in that specific area shrinks no matter what interest rates are doing.
Then you've got infrastructure. The sinkhole.
The Route 29 sinkhole in Great Valley.
A sinkhole feels like a perfect metaphor for 2026.
It really does. Now look, on one hand, the fact that they're fixing it shows the township has funds. That's good long term.
But short term.
It's a traffic nightmare, and if you're a buyer
Yeah.
and you sit in 20 minutes of construction traffic just to go see a house, you arrive frustrated, you walk through thinking, do I have to do this every day?
That hassle tax comes right off the offer price.
It does. Sellers need to account for that.
There's also this fascinating bit about the corporate corridor in Malvern. That used to be the engine of growth, right?
It was that area near the turnpike ramp. But with remote work being so permanent now, that demand is just softening.
And the Great Valley School District actually bought a commercial office building.
For $7.5 million.
Yeah.
Because it was a bargain, which is great for taxpayers, right? Fiscal discipline. But it's also a signal. If the school district is bargain hunting for office space, the corporate demand that drove up home prices isn't what it was.
That is a really subtle but powerful signal. What about the walkability premium?
Media Borough is a prime example. Everybody's hometown. You've got State Street, the trolley, homes right there command a huge premium.
Sure, you can walk to get coffee.
But the problem is sellers 3 miles away in Upper Providence are trying to charge that same premium.
But you can't walk from there.
You cannot. You're not walkable. Buyers know the difference, and they are punishing sellers who try to blur that line.
One last local factor I hadn't even thought of, storm damage.
The late 2025 windstorms, this has actually changed buyer psychology about landscaping.
How so? I thought big, mature trees were a selling point.
They used to be an asset. Shade, beauty, curb appeal.
Yeah.
Now, after those storms, some buyers see them as liabilities. They are walking through a property mentally deducting $5, $10, even $15,000 for tree removal.
That is wild. A beautiful old tree could actually lower your net sale price.
Precisely. If a seller doesn't price that risk in, the house sits.
It's amazing how many layers there are. It's not just beds and baths. Which brings us to the people navigating this, the SEER team, Vincent and Jane.
They're a fascinating case study in how the role of an agent is changing. It's less about sales, more about data analysis, and, frankly, crisis management.
Let's talk about their dynamic. The notes say 2 perspectives, 1 process.
Right. So you have Vincent. He's the strategist. His background is business and tech consulting. Grew up in Buffalo.
Which implies a certain winter-hardened work ethic.
We rely on each other through long winters. I liked that. He runs the numbers. But his big thing is this WB3 predictive system.
This sounded like sci-fi, a predictive system for real estate.
It's a proprietary data model they built, tracks 25 districts, and the claim is it can predict which properties will sell below asking with 92.2% accuracy.
That is a very bold claim.
It is, but in a market like this, data is everything. It essentially tells a seller, you want to list at X, but the data says if you do, you will eventually have to cut to Y. It removes the guesswork.
And then there's Jane.
Jane is the people side. She was a military kid, so she moved constantly. She gets the visceral stress of uprooting a family because she lived it.
And she has this specific certification that caught my eye, RCSD.
Real Estate Collaboration Specialist, Divorce.
That is a heavy niche.
It is. But think about it. If she can navigate a sale where the sellers might not even be speaking to each other, a standard sale is, well, manageable.
So Vincent stops the deal from falling apart technically, and Jane stops the clients from falling apart emotionally.
Exactly. You need both the spreadsheet and basically the therapy. In a market this volatile, that combination is crucial.
So let's bring this home for a seller. What is the biggest trap they need to avoid?
It's the agent selection trap. And this is controversial, but it's real. It's hiring the agent who promises you the highest list price.
But isn't that what we want? The most money.
You want the most money at the closing table, not on the listing agreement. There's a practice called buying the listing. An agent will tell you your home is worth $1 million just to get you to sign, knowing full well it's only worth $900,000.
So they flatter you to get the signature.
Correct. Then they spend the next 4 months beating you down with price reduction requests. Oh, the market is soft, they'll say.
The market is speaking to us.
Right. But they knew it from day one. As the source says, the best listing presentation isn't the highest number, it's the most accurate number.
So how should a seller determine the right price then?
You have to price against your actual competition, not your ego. There's a great example about Applecross in Downingtown.
The big new community.
Yes. If you have a 1990s colonial nearby, you cannot price it against brand new construction in Applecross. The new build has modern amenities, zero maintenance. If you try to compete on price with a superior product, you lose every time.
That makes perfect sense. And there was one last strategic point about scarcity versus commodity that I thought was brilliant.
This is so vital. A lot of sellers are thinking, I'll wait for interest rates to drop before I sell.
It seems logical. Lower rates unleash demand.
But it's a trap, because when rates drop, everyone who's been waiting will list their homes, inventory will spike. Right now, you're scarce. If you wait, you become a commodity one of 5 similar homes on the block.
You want to sell when you're the only game in town.
Precisely. And ultimately, the advice is to move based on your life, not the market. Divorce, downsizing, a new job, those are real reasons to move. Trying to time the global economy is a gambling game that most people lose. If you need to move, move. Just price it for the market you are in, not the one you wish you were in.
So to recap our deep dive today, We are in a silent correction.
Correct. The official numbers say seller's market, but the price cuts and the days on market tell the real story.
And ignoring that reality is incredibly expensive,
Tens of thousands of dollars.
driven by a complex mix of national rates and hyper-local things like sinkholes and even storm damage.
It's a complex ecosystem. You need a scalpel, not a sledgehammer.
I want to leave everyone with this final thought from that WB3 system because it really stuck with me. If a computer model can predict with 92% accuracy that you're going to have to cut your price before you even list, why not just price it correctly from day one and save yourself 4 months of mortgage payment?
It's the ultimate question. Why spend $1 just to make 50 cents?
Something to think about next time you drive past a price-reduced sign. You'll know the story behind it now.
Indeed.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you on the next one.